Primaries. Let's bring in our panel. Kelly Sadler, former special assistant to President Trump, also with us, Democratic strategist Lori Watkins. Both look great on Skype. We're social distancing. Normally we'd have you guys in studio,
Hey,
but
John.
you guys look and sound great on Skype, so we're glad we could do this. Kelly, first question is to you. The only person who really seems to think that there's much of a Democratic primary left is Bernie Sanders and his campaign. It'd be one thing if this were really super competitive and it was in question right now, but why does this continue, and why hasn't Bernie Sanders done maybe perhaps the intelligent and responsible thing and say, you know what, out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to suspend my campaign?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Joe Biden has won the last 16 out of the 21 state primary contests, and he's got the momentum behind him. I think Bernie Sanders, what his goal is to get Joe Biden to adopt some of his more progressive ideas. And we saw in the debate on Sunday, Joe Biden doing just that, coming over to the left on things like gun control and, undocumented immigrants being able to have health care and the halting of deportations. So I think Bernie Sanders' goal is he's going to stay in it as long as he can, so that many of his platforms and his policy ideals are adopted at the Democratic convention.
You know, Lori, when you look at Democrats, I'm always surprised how nice you guys are to Bernie Sanders, considering he has an I next to his name, not a D. He doesn't really do a lot when it comes to, supporting the Democratic Party overall outside of presidential election years. And it's getting kind of the point now where his insistence on being in the campaign is not just selfish, but perhaps irresponsible. Here's Sanders saying why he's still in the race, basically.
We are the campaign to do that. We are the campaign, I believe, to reach out to working class people who understand that Trump is a liar and a fraud, who understand that he is part of the establishment, not somebody who is taking on the establishment.
Well, Lori, if there's one thing that's not missing from the Democratic talking points is somebody who can make that point, right? Somebody who's going to repeat that same message. Why is Bernie Sanders still in the campaign?
I think Bernie Sanders is still in the campaign because he still believes at this moment, before maybe the close of some of these polls in these 3 states that have elections taking place today, that he can come, from far behind Joe Biden right now and try to either get in the lead or come close enough to continue his campaign moving forward. And I can tell you that a bunch of his Bernie bros and his supporters, they are who I really see kind of inciting and keeping this fire burning, if you will, for Bernie and continuing on. What we saw was a contrast the other night during this debate. I don't really agree with Kelly that you saw, Biden go over towards policies that Bernie Sanders necessarily adopted. You saw him take on some of the stances of Kamala Harris.
We know Joe Biden's going to say a lot of things at this point in the campaign to assuage the Bernie bros, right? He wants to put out these fires, the fires of the revolution that are still burning. But, Kelly, do you think that these Bernie bros are actually going to show up and support Joe Biden during the general election?
Well, if we look at history, they didn't come out and support Hillary Clinton. In fact, were a few that came out and supported President Trump. So I think that he's got a base of hardcore supporters that are passionate about his outsider candidacy, and they don't want to get behind an establishment politician. Ironically, Bernie Sanders has been in Congress for almost as long as Joe Biden has, but since he has, he's a socialist and hasn't identified with the Democratic Party, they view him as an outsider taking on the establishment.
The other thing,
it's hard for me to imagine that they'll back an establishment candidate.
The other thing, too, to your point, Kelly, is that the Bernie bros, Lori, didn't really show up to support Bernie Sanders during the Democratic primary. When you look at young people who showed up to vote, they didn't in places like Texas.
And that's where I think you're going to see a huge shift in votes coming out of Florida. Today, I can tell you, Floridians, I have my numbers here. We already have over 1 million folks who have voted by mail or early voted in the state of Florida. And as of 10 a.m. today, we have Democrats. 61,901 Democrats have voted today on Election Day versus the Republicans, 38,086. So I think we're going to see strong numbers today. Those Bernie bros, after today, what we'll see, I don't agree with Kelly that, Hillary Clinton is not Joe Biden, first of all. So I don't think that we're going to see people, if they're not happy with Bernie, naturally go over to a Donald Trump. I don't think we're going to see that in 2020 at all.
Well, I don't have time. We got to go to a commercial break here, but I'd love to play a game with you two next time. Is Hillary Clinton is not Joe Biden, and here's why. Fill in the blank. We could have a lot of fun with that. And we'll have time. Kelly and Lori, guys, stick around. We come back. Amazon has finally banned one controversial book. We'll tell you which one. The catch-up is next.